Hi, everybody, and welcome to Love Fraud Live. When you enter into a relationship, you behave according to relationship rules. Sociopaths, however, behave according to game rules. What does this mean? I'm Donna Anderson, author of lovefraud.com and host of the True Lovefraud Stories podcast. After betrayal by a sociopath, I help you to put down the emotional burden, feel better, and move forward. Tonight, I'll explain the games sociopaths play and 7 rules that will change the game for you. At the end of my short presentation, I'll answer your questions. To be notified of all my upcoming YouTube videos, please hit the subscribe button. Okay, let's get started. Perhaps you've been making yourself crazy trying to understand your relationship with someone whom you now suspect is a sociopath. With this person, no matter what you do, you can't seem to make him or her happy. You feel confused, dismayed, and thanks to your partner's complaints and accusations, you also feel guilty. Well, there's an easy way to clear up your confusion. All you need to do is understand this fact. To a sociopath, the relationship with you is nothing but a game. Okay, so what's a game? According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a game is a physical or mental competition conducted according to rules with the participants in direct opposition to each other. When you're in a relationship with a sociopath, he or she is playing a game, but you don't know that. The sociopath becomes involved with you in order to win. Win what? Well, that depends on what the sociopath happens to want at the moment. It could be sex, it could be money. Maybe the sociopath looks at you as ego-boosting arm candy. Maybe the sociopath needs a place to live, and the easiest way to solve that problem is to move in with you. Or maybe the sociopath is simply looking for entertainment, and you just happened to come along. The sociopath begins hot pursuit with the objective of winning you over. He or she showers you with attention, coaxes you into bed, and promises a wonderful happily ever after. You interpret this to mean that the person has feelings for you and wants love, companionship, and also mutual support. So you behave according to relationship rules, not realizing that the sociopath is playing by game rules. So, how is this possible? Doesn't everybody feel love? Doesn't everybody want to love? Want to be loved? Well, actually, no. Sociopaths are fundamentally different from the rest of us. And here's the difference. They are not capable of authentic love. Scientists have learned that there are 3 components to authentic romantic love, and here they are. The first one is attraction, which is the desire to be with a special person. The second is sex. I hope I don't have to explain that. And the third is caregiving, the desire to care for the people you love. You want the people you love to be happy and healthy. You want what is best for them. Well, sociopaths can do the first 2 components. They can find someone attractive, and they almost always want sex. However, sociopaths do not do caregiving. They cannot authentically care about someone else. They care only about themselves. So, is this just a narcissistic attitude? No. Sociopaths have more than just a different outlook. They have a different biology. So let me explain. The experience of love involves multiple regions of the brain and multiple hormones. Oxytocin and vasopressin are the hormones most closely associated with romantic love, according to a professor from the University of Central Lancashire. Concentrations of both of these hormones increase during the intense stages of romantic love. In particular, oxytocin and vasopressin interact with the brain's dopamine reward system. This creates feelings of pleasure that are associated with romantic love. While men and women are both influenced by oxytocin and vasopressin, women are more sensitive to oxytocin and men are more sensitive to vasopressin. Now, typically, oxytocin and vasopressin promote trust and cooperation, and they reduce somebody's level of aggression. But research has suggested that these hormones function differently in people with personality disorders. They don't act the same way. Researchers in the Netherlands investigated oxytocin and vasopressin in men with personality disorder. They studied male patients in a forensic psychiatric center who were all diagnosed as sociopaths. So in this research, the men were compared to healthy controls, which means other men who weren't sociopaths. The results showed that the oxytocin levels were higher and the vasopressin levels lower in the disordered men than in the healthy controls. So, although you would expect more oxytocin to lead to more friendly behavior, in sociopaths, it doesn't work that way. Now, why am I explaining all this? I want you to understand how dramatically different sociopaths are from the rest of us. It's not that they just make a decision to be relationship jerks. Their body chemistry is so different that they are incapable of being loving romantic partners. So all along, you thought you were in a relationship, but the sociopath was playing a game. So, here are the 7 rules that you need to understand about the games sociopaths play. With this understanding, it should really radically change your perception of your involvement with this disordered person. So here's rule number 1. Despite what the sociopath may have said, he or she wasn't looking for love. The goal was always to get something from you. If you think about it, you should probably be able to figure out what it is. Here's rule number 2. Everything the sociopath said or did was just for effect. If the sociopath praised or flattered you, it was to get you to comply. If the sociopath criticized or hurt you, it was to break down your resistance. There was always an objective. Here's number 3. You may have felt an emotional connection, but the sociopath was faking it. Number 4. When the sociopath treated you well or badly, it had nothing to do with you. You were simply a game piece. Here's number 5. The sociopath is an opportunist and capable of engaging in multiple games with multiple players simultaneously. In fact, that, for them, is exciting. Here's number 6. The sociopath stuck around only as long as you were interesting or useful. As soon as he or she found a juicier target, game over. And number 7, the sociopath was awful to you, but you should not take it personally. Nothing you could have done would have made the sociopath treat you any better. So, that's the presentation for tonight. If you've been exploited by a sociopath, always feel free to reach out to me. I am dedicated to your true recovery from betrayal. I help you to understand what happened, feel better, and move forward. For more information, please visit lovefraud.com/talk to Donna. Also, be sure to check out the True Lovefraud Stories podcast. where survivors tell their own outrageous stories of betrayal. I also interview experts who address issues raised in the stories. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube and YouTube Music, or at lovefraud.com/podcasts. Also, please subscribe to Lovefraud Live. When you subscribe, you'll automatically be notified about all my new videos. Plus, by subscribing, you will boost the distribution of Lovefraud Live on YouTube, which will help to spread the word about all the dangerous, heartless sociopaths who live among us. And if you want more information, you can also subscribe to the Lovefraud newsletter. You'll find many helpful windows in you'll find many helpful links in the window below this video. So now I'll answer your questions. Okay. Well, people are still watching, so feel free to ask any questions you want, whether or not it is related to the topic that I'm talking about today. In the meantime, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on the rules that I gave you, the 7 rules for the games that sociopaths play. So the first thing to keep in mind, as I said, is that sociopaths do not have the ability to love. So they were not looking for love. They wanted something from you. Well, what did they want? Often it's money, but not always. In fact, I've spoken to a lot of people who were involved with individuals that we figured out were sociopaths, and they say, but they didn't take any money. I didn't give them any money. And that's important to understand because sociopaths are not always looking for money. They could be looking for sex. They could be looking for a place to live. They could be looking for housekeeping services or childcare. They could be looking for your connections. I mean, there's a lot of different things that sociopaths want. And the way they get what they want is by manipulating and exploiting other people. One of the worst cases or the worst scenarios, I think, is the sociopaths who get involved with somebody just to entertain themselves. And I've heard several cases of this, and this is often what happens in catfishing situations. I know of multiple cases where a person who we'll call a sociopath met someone online and then worked really hard to seduce that person. Seduce. They don't even live in the same country. They live across the world from each other. And when the person, the target, finally gives in and falls in love with the sociopath dumps them. Just like that. And I've heard of multiple cases of this. So the whole thing, that's a perfect example of how the whole thing was just a game right from the very beginning. Now, the rule number 2, I was talking about what sociopaths do, and it's always for effect. So what's important to understand here is that sociopath words mean nothing, okay? They'll promise you the world. They'll tell you how wonderful you are. Anything that they say is just for effect, and they don't really mean it. So, plus the fact, of course, that they lie. I mean, that's one of the biggest traits of a sociopath. Is the most common and cardinal trait of a sociopath is that they lie. So you have all these things that are being said. They're all being said for effect, and a lot of them aren't even true. So this is really important to understand about what they say. Then I talked about the fact that you feel an emotional connection, but they don't. So the sociopath is not capable of feeling love. So what do they feel? Well, they might feel a desire for sex. They might feel like they own you and you're part of their property. They also might, of course, the main thing that they're interested in is power and control. I mean, in reality, power and control is the only thing that sociopaths truly want and truly satisfies them. I mean, they actually get a charge out of exerting power and control over other people, which is how come sometimes they can just do it to entertain themselves because they find it to be satisfying. Okay, then I talked about how you were just a game piece. And, you know, I saw a show on TV the other night that really illustrated this. It was one of these crime shows, and there's a bad guy who wants to escape. He's about to be arrested, but he's really rich, and so he has a private plane. And so he sends his wife on the private plane, and he sends his friend or advisor, this other guy, on the private plane, and says, I'll be right there. And then the plane blows up. So that's kind of the idea. I mean, obviously that was sociopathic behavior, but, you know, sociopaths are capable of just dumping you when they're done with you. And so, I mean, this guy was happy to blow up his wife. It was a TV show, but, you know, the analogy is there. Sociopaths are very happy to dump you once they're done with you. I also talked about the sociopaths being opportunists and that they often like to juggle multiple partners at the same time. And I mean, this is real. I remember a guy who told me that he was going to a trade association dinner and he was going to be receiving an award. And the woman he was going out with went to the dinner and brought a different guy as a date. Okay, so needless to say, the first guy who was getting an award was totally shattered. But, you know, this woman, you know, just did that to entertain himself. In fact, I actually have personal experience with this one. My ex-husband, James Montgomery, at one point told me that he was going away on a military mission and he was going to be out of the country, but he would figure out a way to come and see me, you know, at night one time, just spend a few hours with me, and then he had to go back on his mission. So he shows up at my house driving a car that I had never seen before, wearing his military outfit. All of this was fake, of course. And, you know, we had our rendezvous, and then he leaves. And later I found out, of course, my ex was never in the military, but what he was doing was he had his other girlfriend at his house, and he took her car to come and see me. So this is the kind of things that sociopaths just love to do. They love to see how close they can get their partners, you know, without anybody finding out. Or maybe if they do find out, they don't care. All right. So sociopaths will hold on to you as long as you're useful or interesting. And this is why they can devalue and discard you so quickly. You know, it's like, okay, I'm done, I'm moving on. And it's because there was never any depth to the attachment to begin with. Okay, and then the last thing I talked about, the last rule, not taking it personally. Nothing you ever could do would have made them treat you any better. So, you know, and also, if they didn't do it to you, they would do it to somebody else. I mean, this is just the way sociopaths behave. And so it's really important not to take it in, not to take in the bad behavior, not to take in the cruel things that they say. I mean, it's hard, you know, until you catch on that everything's a game. So it doesn't matter what you do. There's still going to be sociopaths. You cannot fix them. This is the way they behave. And, you know, if you can get to that point in your thinking where you realize that they are disordered, this is what they are, nothing's going to change them, and you can't take it personally, everything that they've done. Okay, so we have a comment here from Jennifer. You're right, some don't want money, they want a green card or other resources. Oh yeah, the green card. I have a podcast episode that I'm working on related to a green card fraud, where, you know, the guy just essentially that's what he wanted, and it was a really difficult situation. So hopefully Sometime soon that episode will be ready. But it was heartbreaking, and what this guy did was just awful. But yes, there are plenty of people who are. I can think of other cases too of green card fraud. So one of the other things that to keep in mind that is kind of related to this whole theme of the game is that not only is it a game, but the rules keep changing and the sociopath keeps moving the goalposts. So what that means is that they keep changing what you want so you can never please them. They tell you that they want A. You give them A, now they want B. You give them B, now they want C. And so you can never do what they want because they just keep changing what they want. So there's a couple reasons for this. One is that it is a trait of this disorder, is simply that, they have a constant need for stimulation and they get bored easily. So that's one reason why they just keep changing what they want. And the other thing is that I think they do it on purpose to keep you off balance. Because, you keep getting confused and frustrating and you're trying to please them. And they'll say, no, do this. No, I didn't say that when they did say that. I said this. And so I think they do it on purpose, which of course is gaslighting, which means that they're just telling you things that aren't true. They're denying what they said. They're moving the keys. They're moving the furniture, all these other kinds of things, and then saying, that, oh, no, I never did that. So, and the objective, of course, of gaslighting is to make you doubt your own perceptions. So the ultimate objective there is to increase their level of power and control. And that's what sociopaths do. Okay, so looks like that's it as far as no more comments today. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. And we'll be here next Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for the next episode of Love Fraud Live. Thank you very much. Good night.